Okay, so let's do our G1 update here. Getting into the last few nights, pretty exciting to think about some of these scenarios. So let's start at the top with A block. So, still a two-person block. Okada and Archer, most likely contenders for the block. Jonah, after a shock win against Okada, is technically in contention. But, well, in order for him to win the block, Okada would have to lose to Tom Lawler and then beat Lance Archer, right? Because Lance Archer now has a tiebreaker over Jonah. So if Lance Archer wins against Okada, then, that's it, right? He wins the block, right? Even if Jonah beats Bad Luck Fale, which I expect him to, Lance Archer has a tiebreaker over him, so Lance Archer goes through. Okada, again, I don't think he's going to lose to Tom Lawler, right? You might remember from the last video I said maybe he will, but, he lost to Jonah. That's his 2 points off in the main block, right? And I think if he's going to lose again, it's going to be to Lance Archer. Now, Okada is still my pick to win it all, so I fully expect Tom Lawler, you're out of here, and then Lance Archer to go down on the night 18, and Okada to win his block with 10 points. A decisive win for Okada. So that A block, I think, is the most straightforward so far. B block has really not turned out the way I expected, right? Because, quite frankly, I didn't think Tama Tonga was going to do anything in this tournament. I thought he'd literally have 0 points going into last night. But, well, he's had an incredibly strong tournament, really good matches, too. I've been very impressed. So B block is a two-person block. It's Jay White and it's Tama Tonga. Sonata, even if he wins his next match, he has the worst tiebreaker situation, right? He lost to Jay White, he lost to Tama Tonga, so there's no way he can win. Taichi, same thing. He has no tiebreaker over Tama Tonga. He's fighting Jay White next time. I guess technically, could he? No. If Tama Tonga loses his next two matches, then technically Taichi could go through to the block. But I think, just like Jonah, that's unlikely to happen. So Taichi is not going through either. So we're looking at a Tama Tonga and Jay White final, right? So this was one block where I was completely wrong. Now, what's going to happen there? Tama's certainly had a strong tournament, right? And if you want to elevate the guy, having him win the block while beating Jay White would be huge for his career, right? It would mean that you end up with Okada against Tama Tonga in the A and B block finals. And I'm not sure if that's the right match. I'm not sure how exciting that would be. So, I don't know. I still think it would be interesting if Jay White lost to Tama Tonga, so in order to set up that matchup, which makes me wonder, you could have, I don't know. I don't know if Gato and New Japan want to be this cute, but wouldn't it be interesting if Great-O-Khan beat Tama Tonga, right? Hear me out here. So if Great-O-Khan beats Tama Tonga, and then Tama Tonga beats Jay White, right? So what that would mean is... Oh, and Jay White beats Taichi, right? So that would mean Jay White goes into the last night with 10 points. He's already won the block, right? Whereas Tama Tonga, even if he beats Jay, can only get to 8, right? So you could have a scenario, and I think this is sort of what I want, where Jay White loses his last match and then goes on to win the block anyway. I don't know if they'll do that, but what we would get there is you'd get Tama Tonga a big win, and you'd get Okada versus Jay White and give Okada another big win there. Although that would be 2 losses in a row for the champion, so maybe not. Maybe we should just stick with Tama Tonga beating Jay White and winning his block, right? Maybe we should start believing in Tama Tonga. I guess that remains to be seen. I don't know. B block has been the one I've been most wrong about, so, let's see how it goes. Okay, so then we have C block, where it might look to the casual observer like Tanahashi is in great shape, right? He's got a win over Zack Sabre Jr., he's got a win over Naito, sitting at 6 points. But I can't get over the schedule, right? The fact that on the last night you have that Tetsuya Naito versus Zack Sabre Jr. match, and Tanahashi is not even on that card, right? His last match is against Kenta on the 17th. So what that tells me is that Tanahashi is probably going to lose his next two matches in a way that it will be heartbreaking for all of his fans out there. But he's got Goto and he's got Kenta, right? And he lost to Goto last year, and of course Kenta, he has the history with that disastrous ladder match from Wrestle Kingdom. Now, if Tanahashi wins either of those matches, right, he'll have eliminated Naito, right? If he wins both, he just wins the block. So I don't think he's going to do that, right? Because Zack Sabre Jr. and Naito is a really big match. It's probably going to be the main event of that particular night, right, to the last night. So you can't just eliminate one or even both of them from the G1 before their big match on the last night. Like, that's not how the G1 works. So that takes Tanahashi out of contention. Now, Evil versus ZSJ is probably not going to matter very much because, Evil only has 4 points and Zack has 6, so the whole thing is it's Naito versus ZSJ, right? That's the point of the C block. And when we get there, whether Zack is at 6 or 8 doesn't affect the importance of that match because, in that case, Naito has a tiebreaker over Evil, so Evil is not in contention, and once Naito beats Zack, right, he'll have a tiebreaker over Zack, so he would win the block. So I expect Zack to beat Evil, nevertheless, just because, why would you let Zack lose before the big match? And then we come down to Zack Sabre Jr. versus Naito. Now, my pick for this block originally, and this is the one I'm going to stick with, was Zack beating Naito and winning the C block to go to the semifinals. Now, is that going to happen still? You know what? I think so, right? I think Zack has had a great tournament. I think Zack is a good name, and Naito having a sort of big win streak, 3 wins in a row, and then losing to Zack, I think that works. I would not be surprised if Naito wins, though. This one, I've always been saying, it's either, if I want it to be Zack, but not surprised whatsoever if it ends up being Naito. So let's see how this one pans out, but I'm still pulling for Zack Sabre Jr. Then you've got D block. What a weird block. Man, David Finlay and Yujiro at the top? Yujiro? Really? Yujiro doesn't even belong in the G1, and here he is with 6 points. That's sort of... wow. Anyway, so I don't think Yujiro is winning the block. I fully expect him to be decimated by Shingo in his last match, and for us not to have to talk to him about him again. So, yay. But Finlay, wow. I did not expect Finlay to beat Juice. I did not expect Finlay to beat Shingo. I certainly didn't expect Finlay to beat Ospreay. But he's beaten them all. He's sitting on 6 points. And with the tiebreaker situation being as it is, it's strange because he is really well positioned to win the block. And his last 2 matches are against ELP and Yoshihashi, right? His last match is against Yoshihashi and he's leading the block? What? So, in order for Shingo or Ospreay to go through, right, Finlay has to lose both of those matches, right? Because, if Shingo beats Yujiro and ELP, which I expect him to do, Finlay would still have a tiebreaker over him if, he won either of his last 2 matches. So, again, Finlay's position is weird, because if he's not going to win the block, and I'm not convinced that he is, even after his 3 big wins, but if he's not going to win the block, he's going to have his G1 spoiled by Yoshihashi. So it's a bit of a weird G1 for him, right? He beats, Juice Robinson, Shingo Takagi, and Will Ospreay, but then loses to ELP and Yoshihashi, so that's... I don't know what's going on there. Maybe some Bullet Club stuff will happen. I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm going to stick with my guns, nevertheless. I'm going to say Shingo, easy win against Yujiro, and kick that asshole out of the tournament. And then on the last day, he's got ELP, and that I think will be a fantastic match that he'll ultimately win, which would put him at 8 points. Importantly, he has that tiebreaker over Will Ospreay. Ospreay and Shingo, by the way, match of the tournament, like so incredible. Those guys are so good. Just makes every other wrestler in the world look bad in comparison. But that'll put him at 8 points and ready to advance. Ospreay, meanwhile, has Yoshihashi and Juice Robinson, and I'm firmly convinced that the U.S. title storyline is going to come to a head in that Juice Robinson and Will Ospreay match on the last night, right? With Juice beating Ospreay and starting a whole big program for that belt, which somehow Finlay is part of now, by the way, with the way he beat Ospreay and took the belt and everything like that. But yeah, D Block is weird, right? Because, I mean, Finlay losing to Yoshihashi on the last day in order to let Shingo win feels weird. So, are they really going to let Finlay win a block? Right? Is that what's going to happen? If Finlay wins his block, then I would expect Naito to win C block, right? Just so you can have that Los Ingobernables, oh god, my Spanish, de Japón against David Finlay, right? I don't think they would do Shingo against Naito, although they could if they wanted to. So there's that, but I don't know. That's such a huge thing. I mean, he'd be made for life, wouldn't he? I mean, I think he's already made for life with those 3 wins over Juice, Shingo, and Ospreay. But letting him win the block, I think, would be crazy. So it's going to, I think, come down to Yoshihashi eliminating David Finlay from the tournament. Yoshihashi getting a 6-point G1, right? 3-3, probably his best performance ever. I guess that's what we're looking at. So I'm still holding to my guns. I still think Okada is going to win this whole thing. So it's going to be an interesting semifinals here. Okada against either White or Tama. Probably Tama with the way things are going now. And Zack Sabre Jr. against Shingo Takagi, right, which will be an incredible match. So I'm looking forward to those, and I think, Okada's going to take it all, and it's going to be a great path to the Tokyo Dome. So, yeah, I'll have more videos as the finals begin, and I'll see you guys next time.